FDP. Before starting the session, I would take the privilege of introducing our institute to the audience. Delhi Institute of Advanced Studies is a dynamic, growth-oriented institution affiliated to Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University, established by Sri Lakshman Das Sachdeva Memorial Education Society in 1999. The institute offers BCom Honours, BBA, MBA, and MBA FM programs and is providing a dynamic learning environment that is changing in response to the changing need of society. Our institute is among the top affiliate of the Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University. Our students have shown exemplary performances and have been bringing laurels to the institute. We have received 26 gold medals so far. Research at DIAS aim at the advancement of knowledge to improve the management practices and IT skills, and the development of the teaching material and the case studies. The faculty spend considerable amount of time on research activities. The institute is regularly bringing out its own quarterly newsletter, come Journal DIAS Times, and a biannual referred International Journal DIAS USA and Social Science Research Network. Further to this, DIAS has always been organizing seminars and conferences on an annual basis and FDP biannually. This year, Faculty Development Program, which aims at giving hand-on experience on systematic literature review, the FDPs aim at enhancing the skill set of faculty and researchers. We are proud to have our eminent resource person, Dr. Jaspreet Kaur. We would like to welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Before starting with the session, ma'am, I would request our director, ma'am, Dr. N. Malti, ma'am, to say a few words.
Priya, I think ma'am is not there.
Sure, ma'am. Just you can you may take over.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'll be taking a session of SLR today. So this will be a 3-day workshop where today what we'll be doing is systematic literature review. And the next 2 days, what we'll be doing is meta-analysis. So this is a combination of SLR and meta-analysis. So I'll just be switching off my video for better connectivity. And I'm sharing a screen. Please do let me know if the screen has been shared. I think now you are able to see the PPT.
Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
Yeah. So what I'm going to begin today is primarily this topic of systematic review and meta-analysis was picked up by me because I saw this influx of many guides, PhD guides asking for this. So I remember one of my scholars whom I co-guide, she also said that my guide wants me to work on meta-analysis. So that is what she said. And she's already written a paper on SLR and she's got it published in an A category journal. I very often in the seminar will be using a word like A category, B category. So here we refer to the ABDC list, Australian Business Deans list. In the private sector, we do not really go with the UGC. The minimum that we go with or the minimum that we see in publication is Scopus. And looking at the publications and the special issues which were coming up in systematic review and meta-analysis, I started developing this area, understanding this area. The best person in this area till date who's doing a lot of work is Dr. Neeraj Kaushik. So he's one person whose videos, they are in Hindi of course, can be viewed on YouTube. He's done a lot of work on this and he's done more work than what I've done. So, and his videos are very simple. They are short videos, very simple videos. Please do go through them. They are the supplementary, material after you go through this hands-on workshop. Now, what is a systematic review? So, a systematic review collects all possible studies related to a given topic and design, and it tries to review and analyze the results. So, in most of the, so I'll just explain to you the relevance of this. Give me 1 minute. I have shared my screen itself, but what I'll do is I'll just take you to a few special issues and I'll show you the relevance of this topic, because I yeah, special issue. Just a second. All of you can see the Google screen. So if you type special issue of meta-analysis in a journal, you will get, now this is IJIM. IJIM is a A star category. So as I said, we go by the Australian Business Dean's list. Even the IIMs go by that list. So IJIM is A star category in ABDC. They had a special issue on meta-analysis. There was another special issue in International Journal of, so it was called SLR. I'll just write it down. Systematic. So these are all A category journals. Systematic review. So the moment we write systematic review and special issues, so these are the journals which are coming up with, they're coming up with special issues of systematic review. There was lately a special issue in Journal of Business Research, which is another A category journal. Yeah, so this is business research. There was a special issue on literature review meta-analysis. This is again A category. IJCS, International Journal of Consumer Studies, is another. So this topic has become very, very popular to the extent that lately I was submitting a paper, a normal quantitative paper on structural equational modeling in Journal of Consumer Behavior, and they had categories of papers. Ideally, this category of system review comes into review papers. So, initially in PhD year one, we say write a review paper. So nowadays we don't tell our students to write review papers, we tell them to write a systematic review paper, an SLR. Now what exactly is an SLR? So like in a review paper, if any of you in your first years of PhD have written a review paper, what does a review paper mean? A review paper means that I study, and that's why we tell PhDs to do it in the first year. A review paper means I'm going to tell that person to study all the literature of his particular topic in the past 10 years. That's what I'm expecting from him. So when I say write a review paper, I mean to say review all the literature for your particular topic. Suppose it is social media technology use, that is your topic. Review the literature of social media technology use for the past say 10 years. Okay, consolidate, write, read. That is what the purpose is, so that that student who's into PhD and new to the topic, what we are wanting from him is that he should learn, he should know about his topic, he should know about the concepts of his topic, he should know that what amount of work has already been done in their domain, so that they can give gaps. Okay, they can say, okay, here is the gap. Okay, so similarly in a systematic literature review also, we review the past 10 years, 20 years, 25 years of data, and we say that, okay, this is the work which is done and this is where the gap is. So to analyze the gap, we have to review a literature of 20 years, and it's not an easy task. The most difficult task in such a paper is collection of data. When I say, sorry, when I say I've made an SLR paper, what I mean to say is I have studied each and every paper of my domain, and that's a very big statement. That's a very, very big statement. When I say that I haven't left any paper unheard, it's a very big statement. So a systematic review means I am collecting all possible studies related to a given topic. I'm reviewing them and analyzing their results. Okay. Uh, this is a little different from, sorry, this is a little different from a narrative review or a systematic review. I'll tell you how. Uh, Many of us are used to writing narrative reviews. Okay, I'll show you an example. This is what a narrative review is. Okay, all of us have seen this section either in our research papers, or we have seen this section in dissertations, or even if we have MBA students under us, even their thesis, dissertations, all have this chapter number 2, which is basically called review of literature, but it is narrative review. This narrative review is different from systematic review. So why systematic review or SLR has come up in such a big way? Because it is very, very different from this normal narrative review. To illustrate the same, let me give you an example. So tomorrow, suppose I have a lot of money, okay, and I intend to, leave my job. I say, okay, I have enough of money. I'm going to leave my job and I'm going to follow my passion for polo games. Okay, to make a team for the polo game, I start buying horses, a team of horses. Of course, because the speed, productivity, etc., everything is needed in the horse. So I want to get the best horses, okay, which are there in the market. I go to two vendors. I go to two vendors. One vendor gives me a narrative review of the horse. So he says that he brings one horse after another and he says, okay, this is one of the horses. It is brown in color. It is one of the finest breed of UK. It has won thousands of races. It has a rocket bolt speed. Now this is narrative review. He brings one horse, second, third, fourth, gives a narrative review, that is theoretical review of all these. And at the end, he tells me, okay, select any of the horses. Now, this is a very difficult situation for me because all of them were narrative or qualitative reviews. Now, how do I select? So I go to another vendor. Now, this vendor shows me a list of some 40 to 50 horses, which are there on the right side of the slide. Now, these horses vary in color, size, breeds, height, speed, everything. But this person is very, very systematic. He says, okay, ma'am, horse number 1, I'm giving you, I'm telling you that out of a power of 1 being maximum, horse number 1 is of the power 0.4. Horse number 2 is of the power 0.6. Horse number 3 is of the power 0.8. He gives me the power of all the horses and he says, okay, now ma'am, you can select whichever you want. So, this is a very systematic way. I have 40 to 50 horses. I have the power of all of them. I will select any 10 horses. I will calculate I will see, of course, first of all, I'll select only the horses which have a higher power. So 0.8 and above, I'll select number 1. So that makes it easy. Number 2, if I see the power of my team, the horsepower of the team, it will be a consolidation of all these powers taken together. If you've understood this example, replace the horses with research papers. So in a systematic literature review, we take some horses or we take some research papers and we give a power, we assign a power to each and every paper. This power is on the basis of the analysis which is done in the paper itself. So I am in a way, in an SLR or a meta-analysis, I'm talking about both the techniques. Primarily in a meta-analysis, what I'm going to do is, there is a quantitative study and it is giving me a strength of a relationship. There's another study which gives me a strength of a relationship. There's a third study which gives me a strength of relationship. I am going to consolidate all those trends together and say, okay, this is the average relationship. Okay. So that is what is a SLR. So SLR is a very systematic way because I know the power of each study. vis-a-vis a narrative review where it's more of theoretical, qualitative, so there is no quantification or objectivity in it. Narrative review is very, very subjective. Systematic review is very, very objective. So let me take an example of narrative review. Now this is what is narrative review. Now just have a look at this piece of narrative review where they are talking about social media. Okay, so the topic for this narrative review is social media. Whenever any of us writes such a narrative review, what do we write? So we take some, and we are a little okay. The first thing that you see over here is how many authors are here. So you have a Kabilan, McCarthy, Junko, Kirchner, Karpinski, and Lau. So you have some 6 authors. When we do an SLR, and I'm going to show you a paper, we will have at least 100 plus papers. So, where in a narrative review, I am expected to cite only 4 to 5 authors for a particular relationship. If the same relationship is being studied in an SLR, I will have to cite each and every author. So which means I'm going to cite some 100 authors in an SLR vis-a-vis a narrative review where I've just cited 4 to 5. Number one, that's the first difference. And this is also a difference between a normal review paper and a systematic review paper. So normal review papers which were there previously in olden times, if I can say so, that is the difference between these two papers. Another difference between narrative review and systematic review is that in a narrative review, we cannot do quantitative analysis. What quantitative analysis can I do from the review that you see in front of you? So quantitative analysis is not possible in a narrative review, but in an SLR, it is possible. Another point of difference is that when we are writing a narrative review, we are always biased. So if I be frank, any of you who've ever written a review for a research paper or ever written a review for a dissertation or a thesis, your guides have told you, please take the past 5 years of authors. So we are very, very biased. We only and only speak about what has happened in the past 5 years. And if we don't do that, the papers don't get published. So we are always told take recent references, 2017 to 2021, not older than that. Thus, when we are writing a narrative review, there is a bias. What is the bias? The bias is that we cite only latest authors or latest studies or latest research papers. Vis-a-vis this, when we are studying the same thing for a systematic literature review, I can take studies of the past 20, 25 years also. So I am not biased. One, I'm not biased when it comes to timeline. Two, I'm not biased for example, in my papers also when I'm working with people who have A category papers and when I'm working with them, they say even your references should only be from A category papers. They say, I mean, the author references which you see here, McCarthy, Cavilla, even that they say has to be from A category papers. So we have a bias. We only and only cite A category papers. But in a systematic literature review, A category, B category, C category, scopus, published, unpublished, dissertation, thesis, conference proceedings. Anywhere that you see a value cited for your study, say social media, you are supposed to be inculcating it in an SLR paper. So you can imagine the amount of uh, expansion of work which has to be done in an SLR vis-a-vis a literature. So here in this slide, I have cited the major differences between a narrative review and a systematic review. A narrative review is more thematic. So, topics are written as themes, paragraphs, topics of paragraphs. Whereas in a systematic review, we are more specific. Okay. In a narrative review, we don't need something called a protocol. I will explain protocol in detail. But you don't need a protocol in a narrative review. In a systematic review, we do need a protocol, and that protocol is there in a systematic review because systematic review is a technique which came from medical sciences. And in science, everything has to be systematic with a flow chart, with a prisma, with a protocol set. So, unlike a narrative review, in a systematic review, we have to actually have a protocol. We have to make the protocol. We have to write the protocol in a paper, show it through a diagram called Prisma. Only then can we proceed with our research. In a narrative review, there is a level of subjectivity because if I say which are the 5 authors this particular author or a writer must have picked up, it's very subjective. I can pick up, there are thousands of people who are working on social media. When I'm writing a narrative review, I can pick up any 5. You can pick up any 5. A third person might pick up some other 5, and there is no justification we ever give that why these 5. See, there are so many people who worked on social media. Why only Kabilan? Why only McCarthy? So in a narrative review, there is a set of subjectivity and you don't have to defend why I took this study or why I took an author. But in a SLR paper, you have to justify and defend why I took these 114 studies. There has to be a defense for it. There has to be a reasoning of it. Okay, protocol is done. Okay, a narrative review, there cannot be a quantitative analysis. There can only be a qualitative analysis. In a systematic review, there can be a qualitative as well as a quantitative analysis. So these are the major differences, and I've tried to illustrate it with an example. And these differences come from a paper, the source is already given. It's why systematic review rather than a narrative review. Okay, so this is a Psychiatry Investigation 2015. It's a paper you can read. Now, let's come to steps in systematic review. If you've understood the difference, if you've understood why an SLR, because why I'm telling you why an SLR is because even when I start a research paper of SLR, I have to, in the research methods, write down why I'm doing an SLR. So nowadays it's not, like for example, the SEM is very popular nowadays. So structural equational modeling is very popular. It's a very popular quantitative technique. There are so many seminars being done on EFA, CFA, SEM, PLS, SEM. But even when we use it in papers, and I have published papers where I've used it, I have to write a paragraph or two of why I used it. And this is not just a narration by me. You have to give references which say that for this sort of a study, this sort of a descriptive study, SEM is best. Similarly, in an SLR also, when you start the study, you will have to justify why an SLR, why not another technique of research. And that is when this differentiation between narrative and SLR come very handy. Now let's come to actual SLR. So how do you do an SLR? So these are the 9 steps of SLR. I'll go one by one. And at the end of the session, I'll show you an A category paper of SLR to make you understand that how it's different from basic review or narration. The first thing in a systematic review is a research question. You must be thinking, why is the research question even being discussed? Because this is something which we must have already learned in basics of research. But in an SLR or in a meta-analysis, the research question is not that simple. It's not like writing a line that to study the effect of attitude on intention. It's not that easy. In a SLR or a meta-analysis paper, the research question has to be given in the form of a PICO. We call it a PICO. And this actually comes from the medical sciences, as I said, so you have to follow that protocol. So if medical sciences used SLR and meta-analysis and they defined the research question in a PICO, you will also have to do it, even if you're applying it on social sciences. Okay, so what is a PICO? The first thing I have to define is what is my population. Okay, the second thing is I have to define what is an intervention. Third is comparison, and fourth is outcome. So in my research paper, I will have to say who's the population. Now, when I say population, I mean who are the papers on. Okay, I'll give you a small example of this in the medical field. So nowadays, um, lately, we have a slight rise of COVID cases in India, and schools are also about to open probably next week or after Diwali. But there isn't a very popular or tested vaccine for kids right now in India. Okay. Now I want to. There are so many vaccines. So I've heard in Dubai there are some, a choice of some 100 vaccines which you can choose from them. And India wants a vaccine, and it wants a certified vaccine, which is the best because kids are at stake, and COVID is a very dangerous virus. Now, suppose the Indian government decides that let me do a systematic literature review for this. Let me go back and see that what all vaccines have ever been used for COVID. So, somebody is not on mute. Yeah. So, uh, and it's not only last year that COVID, before that also in somewhere around 2002, there was a SARS virus which was similar to COVID. So at that time also a vaccine was devised. So suppose I go back 20 years and see that what are the types of vaccines which are given to kids, um, say for COVID or COVID related type viruses. Now, if this is my research problem for which I'm about to do an SLR, I'm going to do an exhaustive 20-year study of this. And after doing the 20-year study, I will decide that, okay, this is the vaccine that I'm going to bring to India, and this is the vaccine which is going to be applied on kids. What is my population? Or which are the studies I'm going to pick up? When I'm picking up studies from the past 20 years and I'm picking up some 200 studies from the past 20 years, what is my population? Should I include studies where adults have been given vaccine? No, I should not. When I say I'm defining a population in SLR, it means that I am going to only take up those studies where a kid was vaccinated for COVID or a related virus. Okay, so I have to very categorically define. I will not read research papers where adults had been vaccinated. Number one. Number two, intervention. What is the moderator here, or what is changing over here? Population is kids. One intervention could be location. So when I'm reading those studies, one changing factor or one factor which can bring heterogeneity in the study could be that the kids are of different locations. So maybe Asian kids are a little more immune physically, or do have a higher level of immunity vis-a-vis others when I go through studies. So this is one intervention. Another intervention or moderation or heterogeneity in the papers could be the vaccine itself. So, some studies might be using Pfizer, some studies might be using Covishield, another study might be using uh, the Russian vaccine, I think it's called Sputnik. So, different, you know, vaccines are being used in those 200 papers over 20 years. So, that could be an intervention. So intervention is a moderator or a change, a factor which is changing in those 200 papers. Okay, if location is changing, that is a moderator. If vaccines are types are changing, that is a moderator. So intervention has to be listed. What is the intervention you are studying? Maybe many things are changing, but what is the intervention you are studying? Right now, when it comes to Indian students being vaccinated, the intervention that I want to study from this SLR paper is type of vaccine. I want to see that the best vaccine or the best company vaccine comes to India. The third part is comparison. Okay. Am I comparing two groups? So in experimental studies, what happens is there are always two groups. One group is the one who will be given the vaccine, and the second group is the control group who will not be given the vaccine. And we will see in a span of 6 months or 1 year that the group which was given the vaccine, was it more immune than the group which was not given the vaccine? This we have to see. So I need papers, I need research papers, articles. I'm not going to do this physically. This is not primary data analysis. And SLR is purely a secondary data analysis. The best thing about an SLR study is I don't have to go out, I don't have to collect data, I don't have to force people to fill up questionnaires, I don't have to check the reliability, nothing doing. I just have to collect secondary data papers from everywhere. Everywhere. So there are comparisons. Okay, there are comparisons between the control group and the experimental group in the papers itself. So that is one thing which I have to define, that this is what I'm studying in the paper. And the last thing is the outcome. So when I say outcome, it means that what is the outcome of this study? So I have to define in my research question that once that I've started this research, where am I reaching? What's the outcome? So yeah. The outcome in the study is that I want a good vaccine, the best vaccine for Asian kids or say Indian kids. That is my outcome. Now, if we had to apply, this is a medical example, if we had to apply the same thing to a social science example, one of the studies that one of my students was doing in SLR was on young ethical conscious consumers. So she picked up papers, she got some 98 papers from the past 20-25 years. She picked up some 98 papers which were studying, the papers were studying only young ethical conscious consumers. Number one. She said, my intervention over here will be religiosity, which means all those papers that I have collected, 98 papers, are differing on some parameter. Okay, they are differing in location, they are differing in religion of the participant, etc. So I will take religion as an intervention. Third thing, comparison. She said in these papers, I want to compare, or I'll pick up papers which compare male to females when it comes to the implication of religiosity on young ethical conscious consumers. And the last thing she said was outcome. So why is she doing this study? She was doing this study especially only on papers which were on luxury products. So she was very, very clear. Young ethical conscious consumers, luxury products, religion as an intervention, male, females, I'll be comparing. And what am I going to, what is the managerial outcome over here? The managerial outcome is that I would want to know that are consumers avoiding buying products which are coming with an animal harm. So this was her whole SLR and meta-analysis. She collected all the reports which were done on conscious consumers who were buying luxury products, okay, where males and females and their behavior was compared. Okay, so she got some 98 papers, and it's not only all over the world. It's like 25 years ago. She got some 98 papers from the past 25, and all products. So here we can't be too specific. If we become too specific, suppose sorry, suppose she had become too specific that I want uh, only and only luxury products, or I want only and only shoes and papers of shoes. She couldn't have done an SLR. The amount of papers which would have turned up would have been just one or two. So in an SLR, you have to be specific, but you can't be too specific. If you're too specific, what happens is the number of papers that you get from past literature that gets contracted. And that is not what we want. We want papers to do an SLR. Okay, so decide your research question very, very carefully. It shouldn't be so generic that a paper has already been done on it. It shouldn't be so specific that you don't get data for it. I need a data of 100 papers at least for an SLR. If I don't get 100 papers, I get some 20, 30 papers and I do an SLR on it. That paper will never get published, forget in an A category, not even in a B category journal. Okay, these are things I'm telling you out of experience because from the last 1 year I'm trying to publish a paper. So I'm just telling you these things out of experience. I have published papers, I have got review comments. So I'm just trying to share with you that experience. The second thing that you have to do, so you've just done one thing right now, you've just made the research question. The second thing that you have to do is assemble a research team. See, the data that we are talking about is huge. To get those 100 papers, you will have to serve at least 10,000 papers. So you can imagine the amount of exorbitant work which is going to be there in an SLR paper. And to do that sort of exhaustive work, we need a team, number one. There's another reason why we need a team in an SLR paper, because we are proposing that there is no bias. So we are saying that there is no bias. I've taken every paper, published, unpublished, dissertation, proceedings, conference. So when one person is collecting a paper, there could be a bias. I could be biased towards collecting only A category papers. But when three people are doing it, that bias goes away. Publication bias goes away. And that is why I should have a team. Uh, there have been PhD scholars who have asked me that, ma'am, we are single people, so we are making research reports ourselves alone. How do we make a team? So you and your guide could become a team. So, when you collect papers and you say, okay, these are the 100 shortlisted papers that I'm collecting, you could probably show it to your guide and she could tell you that should a paper be taken in or there's a research you've missed out, so on and so forth. The third thing is determine if there is any published systematic literature review on your topic. To do this, I'll take you to, again, as I said, one of my personal bad experiences, although. So all you have to do is go on any good database. So the good databases are Scopus, ProQuest, Web of Science, etc. Of course, you might not have access to them. If you don't have an access to them, you could do this exercise on Google Scholar the way I am doing it, and type the topic of whichever topic you want to do an SLR on. Now I'll explain to you what happened to me. So I was doing yeah. So I wanted to do something on customer engagement, and one of the senior people, 2020, somewhere around August, the same time, 1 year ago, they told me that let's work on customer engagement and make an SLR paper. So I made an SLR paper, and look what happened. It's very, very unfortunate. Somewhere around 2021, I mean, I've just made the paper and submitted it. It took me 1 year. There was a team of 8 people working on it. But just when I submitted it, somewhere around uh, uh, early this year, somewhere around February and March, ever since I've submitted it, it's been somewhere around 8 to 10 months, and the paper is not getting through even in the review process. So when you submit to a good category journal, there are two processes. One is that it is desk rejected, which means there's no scope of the study. If you're fortunate enough and the paper gets through review process, it is called a reviewing. So two reviewers review it and then it might get published or it might. Now I actually made this paper out of 101 papers. There was a team of 8 people. We worked very hard, and somewhere around 100, 120 papers have been inculcated in this meta-analytical study. But because we took a lot of long time, okay, and when I submitted it in January 2021, I saw that this study this study was already got published in 2020. Somewhere around May 2020, this study already got published when we were still making the paper. Another study which got published already on this topic is 2021. So this again is the first publication came in 2020. So these, although when I started the paper somewhere around June last year, I did check that there was no study on customer engagement published, because see, the reason is, if somebody has already compiled the review of a particular topic for the past 20 years, what are you going to do? What new are you going to do? These two authors have actually created a problem for me, because they have already compiled the last 20 years of review of customer engagement. And now my problem is that whenever I give my paper to any journal, the journal sends it back saying that there are already 2 papers of meta-analysis or SLR on this topic. And they are very latest papers, and they are both from A category journals. The first paper that you see is Journal of Consumer Behavior, so that's also A category, and Journal of Academy, of course, is A star. So now, it's been so many months that my paper wasn't getting published. Somehow I've lost heart and I've submitted it in a B category journal, because I know that if these papers are published, my paper will not get published. There are A category papers on meta-analysis on this one topic that I selected. So there is no use wasting time. This paper unfortunately will go to a B category. It's in review right now. But A category, we've been trying very hard. It's a very good paper made with 110 studies, a team of 8 people working hard, but it's not going to get through. Now, although this is a very unfortunate thing that happened to a team, but when you are doing an SLR, you have to be comparatively quick, because somebody else should not come up with an SLR of it. Okay, so if somebody does come up with an SLR, your SLR will not get published. So that's the third point I'm trying to make. Please go and check before you start a paper. There should be no published systematic literature review on your topics till date. If there is, your paper will not get published. Fourth step, develop and register a protocol for study. So what's a protocol? So this word will come. A protocol is a predefined series of steps with well-stated limits. This protocol is in SLR and meta-analysis, we call it PRISMA, Preferred Reporting Items for Systematic Review and Meta-Analysis, PRISMA. And we are supposed to be writing this protocol for papers in social sciences also. Although this protocol comes from the medical sciences, it looks something like this. So this flow chart that you see, or a similar flow chart that you see, has to be given by you also for anything that you're doing. So if you are writing on social media, still you have to give this protocol. Now, what is a protocol as I defined? It is a series of steps which is with well-stated limits. So here we define that what was the total set of papers that we found out. So for example, in this protocol or PRISMA, it is very clearly stated that a total of 6,638 articles were found through 3 databases. Now, how do you see that? So this is Google, and suppose I say I'm working on one paper, another paper, which is enough. I'm trying to crack the B category in SLR meta. So religiosity and purchasing, one of the topics that doesn't have an SLR yet.
Ma'am, sorry
Yes.
to interrupt. There is a
Yeah.
question may I ask right now?
So I think I'll take up questions at 7:45. You can
All
just
right, all
write
right,
it down, huh? Because I
all
want to
right.
finish the process.
Sure,
I'll
ma'am. Sure.
stop. I'll stop 20 minutes. 7:40 I'll stop so that everybody can ask a question. Right? I'll just wrap up by 7:40. So religiosity and purchase intention was one of the papers that I'm making. Now these are all the papers. So there are somewhere around 37,800 results. Okay. Now, when you do the same exercise on a Scopus or a Web of Science or ProQuest, the number of results will be less, but still you will get some 6,000 to 7,000 papers at least on one topic. Okay. And full text, you need full text to do an SLR, so just an abstract won't work. Now, in a protocol, I have to define that taking those three articles together, how many total papers I got. So I got some 6,638 papers total. Now I will do a screening on the basis of title. Just see how you do it. Now my topic is religiosity, and okay, just for the sake of example, let me make it a little generic because I want to in the first page itself I want to tell you which should I take and which I should not take. Now I want to find out the impact of religion on intention. Okay, so my case is marketing, so I want to know that the religion of a person, does it impact his purchase intention? But I write religion and intention, impact of religion on intention, and I'm searching papers, and I'm searching papers, old papers, new papers, everything. Now there are so many results. I mean 1,14,000. If I try and open it abstract, I'll never be able to finish my SLR. So I go by the topic justification. So look at the first topic. It says attitude, mediator of subjective norms, religiosity, and intention to adopt Islamic banking, which means here he's talking about a product. So religion, intention, and product. I can take this study. Do they care what they believe? Exploring the impact of religiosity on purchase luxury products. Again, religion and product. I should take this study. Intention to choose halal products, the role of religiosity. Again, I'll take this study. Cosmetic products and all. Now, purchase intention. Okay, this also I'll take. Now, just see the title of this.
Ma'am, we can't see
Religiosity.
the screen. It's just your PPT.
Are you sure I just shared it? Okay, wait a second.
No,
Previously,
the screen is visible. The papers, which had the papers. Yeah, it's
Uh,
visible now. It's visible now.
now it's visible, ma'am, now.
Acha, sorry. So I am at any point of time, if what I'm talking the screen is not visible, I'm switching between screens, although I have done a share screen. I have done a share screen, but maybe while switching sometimes. So these are the papers, religiosity and intention. Okay, there are too many papers and I have to screen them on the basis of title. Okay, can you see my PPT now? Can you see
Yes,
my
ma'am.
PPT now?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Yes. So the
No,
first
ma'am.
screening,
Excuse me, ma'am. Your PPT is
yes.
not visible.
How come some people can
It's
see it?
visible, ma'am.
It is
It's
visible.
visible.
Manaswini
Prisma is
ma'am,
visible.
We can see
Yeah.
your
This is
screen.
visible.
Yeah. So now if this PPT says that the first set of articles is 6,638 and I'm removing 6,000 articles on the basis of title. This is what I'm showing you. Now I'm on the Google Scholars screen. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am,
it
it
is.
is.
It is.
Now I am trying to tell you, thank you. I'm trying to tell you that on the basis of title, how do we reduce? So look at the first paper. It is talking about religiosity and banking. So religiosity and a product. So I'll take this paper. The second paper is talking about do they care what they believe? Religiosity and luxury products. I'll take this paper also. Third paper is intention to choose halal products, religiosity. I'll take this paper also. Now I'll show you an example of a paper I will not take. I'm 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 sorting on the basis of topic. I've not even read the abstract yet. Religiosity and entrepreneurial intention. Should I take this paper or should I not? I should not. Because what I intend to study is whether the person will be able to purchase a product or not. Okay. And in this paper, he's talking about religiosity and its impact on entrepreneurship, not purchase intention. So I'll discard this paper. So first thing which we have to do as a team in an SLR. Now I'm back to my PPT. I hope all of you can see the screen. I'm back to my PPT on the Prisma slide. The first thing that is done is excluding titles, excluding papers on the basis of title. So on the basis of title, I've neglected certain topics. I am now left with 1395 articles. Okay. And this, what I'm doing on one database has to be done on 3 databases. What I'm doing on one database has to be done on 3 databases. This whole chart completion takes somewhere around 3 to 4 months, sometimes 6 months also, despite the fact you have a team. Now 1395 articles are included, out of which duplicates are removed. So there's a software by the name of Mendeley where you can remove the duplicates. Because when my team brings articles from Scopus, Web of Science, Google Scholar, there will definitely be articles which are there in all 3 databases. So if it's a good A category paper or a B category paper, we are sure to have it on all 3. So it will be on Scopus as well as Web of Science as well as this. So if one author was working on Scopus, one author was working on Web of Science, one was working on Google Scholar, when they bring papers, there are surely going to be duplicates. Remove them. I'm left with 1197 papers. Now I start reading the abstract. I'm still not reading the full paper. After reading the abstract of some 11,000 or 12,000 papers, I find that somewhere around 821 abstracts are not appropriate to my study. I removed them. I'm now left with 415 papers. These 415 papers, in whatever time span you have to be read, have to be screened by full reading. After doing this, I find somewhere around 319 papers. After full test screening, I see no, this is not according to my PCO. It is not according to my research question. I am now left with 100 papers. These 100 papers I can use for an SLR, Systematic Literature Review. This 100 papers is a mix of quantitative papers as well as qualitative papers, conceptual papers, all sorts of papers. I can take this up, I can wind them up, summarize them, write an SLR paper. But in case I feel that I don't want to do a simple SLR, I want to go further to a quantitative analysis called meta-analysis, which we are going to do for the next 2 days, then I will have to remove the qualitative papers from this data set. So out of 100, suppose I decide I'm going to go further to a meta-analysis, I'm not stopping at SLR. I will remove 60 articles. Okay. And after removing them, I am left with 40 quantitative articles. Now, for doing a meta-analysis, there is a value which I need from all these articles. Suppose it is correlation. When I read these 40 articles, I see that correlation tables are not given for some 9 to 10 articles. I write to authors, I ask them, can you please give me a correlation table? If they answer and give me the tables, well and good. If they don't give it to me, I am left with 31 articles, and these 31 articles I use for my meta-analysis. Okay, so if you're doing an SLR, stop at 100. If you are further going to meta-analysis, your meta-analysis would go less than 100. In A category papers, I have seen a meta-analysis of at least 50 to 60 papers done. In A category papers, when you do an SLR, I have seen somewhere around 110 and above papers to do SLR. What is meta-analysis? That we'll do tomorrow. But what is um, uh, SLR? That I'll want to show you with a paper. But before that, let me quickly wind up the steps. So I have registered a protocol. I will include a inclusion and exclusion criteria, step number 5. So when you give this protocol, it's not just that you give a flow chart. You have to describe in paragraphs what I included. So you have to say, did you include only English papers? Now, where this is very, very obvious in a narrative review, in an SLR, I have to write, I included only English papers. Did you include papers of keyword? You have to write the keywords which you searched also. So, if in my inclusion, I will have to write, now I'm on my Google Scholar screen. Now I'm on my Google Scholar screen. I will have to write that I wrote, suppose, factors affecting religion and purchase intention. If this was what you searched, I have to write these keywords in my paper and say, this is what I searched. And please don't try and fudge this. There was one paper where I did write that these are the keywords, and I put it in quotes. I gave him 3 keywords which I searched in 3 databases. I had some, I don't know, 200 papers found for that keyword, and he replied back to me. He said, I actually tried it and they were not even 100. He wrote back to me in the review. So that is a very, very embarrassing situation, and it was, of course, a direct reject. Yeah. So in an SLR, we are supposed to be defining what is the inclusion and exclusion criteria. If you have excluded, I'm going to show you a paper of A category where he said I'm not including dissertations. Doesn't matter. If you say I don't want to include dissertations and conference proceedings, I only and only want to include published paper, it's fine. But you have to tell me what you have included and what you have excluded. Point number 7. After you have written an inclusion and exclusion paper, include only those papers which meet your inclusion criteria. Point number 7, extract data from them and analyze it. Point number 8, interpret the data. And 9 is update review, which means if your paper gets published, like in customer engagement, I told you 2021, the paper that got published, it has updated a review. So now the next person who should try a hand on meta-analysis should try a hand at least 5 years after this paper. Okay, because that is when review will get updated. Right now, the person who's published in 2021 must have taken papers till 2021. There's no use. So the moment your paper is formed, update review, which means get it published. Show you an actual SLR paper. If you've understood the whole process, I would like to share, and I'll take you through all the points in that paper, in a published paper. So this is supposed to be an SLR paper of my field. I generally work on sustainable consumption. Most of my papers are published in that domain. So this is a journal of cleaner production. This is an A category paper with a very, very high impact factor. And this is a paper of 2017, so it's not a very old paper. The title of this paper is Green Marketing, an analysis of definitions, strategies, tools through systematic review of literature. So these two authors have done an SLR of the term green marketing. The aim that they say is defining green marketing and the major marketing strategies that have been studied in green marketing in the past 2 decades. That is what they wanted to do. They consolidated it in an SLR. Now just see how they did this. The first chapter, of course, an introduction, which is there in every paper. Now what is most important is the second chapter. Okay, so after they finish the first chapter, I'm going to just see bits and pieces. The second chapter, generally in an SLR paper, is the methodology. Why it is the methodology, or why the second chapter, which generally in a research paper is review of literature, is not the case in SLR, is because the whole paper is review. So the whole 8,000 to 10,000 word is nothing but literature review. So we don't make a second chapter called review of literature. We straight away make a second chapter with methodology. Unlike a normal paper where a methodology is barely 500 words to 700 words, Methodology chapter is a very, very huge chapter, major chapter in an SLR paper. So let me take you through the methodology, and at every point when I take you through, I will, you will recollect all the steps that I've told you. So he says that I collected data from 3 databases. The databases that he's chosen are Scopus, EBSCO, and Web of Science. I hope you can see the paper. I'm right now on the paper. I'm on the paper on the section methodology. So
Yes,
he
ma'am, it is
says,
visible.
you can see? Yeah, okay, thank you. So 3 databases he's used, EBSCO, Scopus, and Web of Science. He said these are the 3 databases I've used. He's made a mark. He's also said in table number 1, I'm describing how I searched. So, this is what he's given in table number 1. And he says that in EBSCO, just reminding you, inclusion and exclusion, if you remember. So he says that I have taken all the English papers. I have taken all the papers which were there till 2015. So probably he finished his research in 2015. But getting a publication in an A category journal does take 1 to 2 years, okay, if it's well made. So all papers till 2015 he has included. He says, I have only and only included papers of academic journals. So he hasn't gone for dissertations, etc. So these are his inclusion principles. He's included papers in English, he's included papers of all years till 2015. He's included papers only from academic journals. He's very categorically given the inclusion principles for all 3 databases, EBSCO, Scopus, and Web of Science. The second thing he's done is, when he's collecting data, see how, just look at the amount of justification we have to give in an SLR paper that we selected these studies. Look at the amount of the whole chapter of methodology goes in justification. So this is actually sampling. Like in a normal paper, we say that we took a sample of 500 people. They were managers of retail, X, Y, Z. Here my samples are papers. So I have to write a chapter on how I selected my sample. Okay, it's just that technically we call it protocol or inclusion and exclusion principles. These are the terms which are used in SLR. We don't use the word sampling in SLR papers. So he says that in table number 2, he says these are the 4 keywords he used. So he used green marketing in quotes. He got 291 papers from EBSCO, 300 from Scopus, 223 on Web of Science. And as I said, this can be cross-checked. Please don't try and fiddle with the reviewer. The reviewer is a very, very experienced person. And then when you get the review, then it's very, very shameful when you get a very bad review that, forget these many research, I didn't even get 20. A second keyword he tried was environmental marketing, eco/marketing, and eco-marketing. Okay, so this is technical keywords that he's tried, and he's listed the results. He says he got from these 3 databases, he got a total of 410 articles. Now, after, saying that from where did he collect data, he will go and make a protocol for this data. So 410 articles he got from all over these 3 databases from the exact keywords. So when I know it's a little dangerous to so openly talk to the reviewer that these are the keywords I gave, because they can write back and say that why didn't. So then one of my papers where I wrote factors affecting purchase intention and religion, the reviewer wrote back to me, said, why didn't you use the word precedents, antecedents to the religiosity and purchase intention. So he rejected the paper. He said factors influencing is not the correct keyword. It should be antecedents to religiosity and purchase intention. So these things do happen. It's a subjective point of view, but this is a part of learning. Try and take the best evidence. After this, he goes to protocol. So this is his prisma, a very, very simple prisma, where he does say that he had somewhere around some 543 papers from these 3 different databases, which is already described in table number 1. And then he says that he removed the duplicates and he came to 410 papers. Okay. He screened them on the basis of abstracts, and he said that somewhere around 249 papers he removed because from the abstract he found out that they were not relevant. 161 papers he found potentially relevant, but even out of that, he says 26 papers he did not find, he found full text, but they were not relevant. So 26 papers out of these, he did get the full text for the paper, but they were not relevant to his topic, so he discarded them. Another 21 papers he says that I did not get the full text at all. Okay, so this is a very genuine and honest this thing, and rather than saying that okay, 410 papers and I got a full text of all of them, you can always say that I could not access 21 papers because maybe they were very expensive to access or whatever the case might be. So he says 21 papers he could not access. After removing them, he has 114 articles on which he's done a systematic review. Mind you, this paper is not on meta-analysis. Meta-analysis is that part of SLR where we only and only go through quantitative analysis. And SLR is a broader term where we take a qualitative as well as a quantitative analysis together and summarize past review. What he does is, so this is his data collection. There's another column that we always make after data collection and methodology, which is called inclusion principles, or we call it study selection. These are standard columns. If you read 4 SLR papers or meta-analysis paper, you will understand these are standard columns. Okay, so data collection is one, study selection is one. So he says, he says, I studied all excluding. So I'm just going to read out the excluding factor. Okay, so he's just written how he came to 114. Okay, yeah, here it is. So he has said I've removed papers in Prisma, but here he defines what he removed. So he has, he has not taken any study when he was removing papers. When he says that I removed 29 irrelevant papers, he has even defined what does he mean by irrelevance in this context. So he says that any paper which was on green marketing but had a tax policy, regulation policy, government policy, or a regulatory issue, I have excluded. Further, any papers which were talking about corporate green strategy or consumer buying behavior also I have discarded. Okay. He also says that the study does not include service sector papers. They are only papers which took products. He did not include the service sector papers. Okay. Further, he says any paper which was dealing with supply chain, I have not taken. Any paper which was talking about green marketing in the context of supply chain, I have not included. So this is what he has said as his inclusion and exclusion principles. This is what I meant when I said define what you included, what you excluded. Next, data extraction. He says what is the type of data he extracted. He took the author's name, publication year, title, research questions. Okay, so the journal of publication, these are the major data he extracted from these 114 papers. Okay, now he started analysis. So if this is what he extracted, chapter number 3 is analysis of results. So when he said that he extracted the journal names from 114 papers, he had to do some analysis with it. And this is the analysis which he's done. So in table number 3, you see, he has, segregated the papers on the basis of journals. And these studies are very good for us because, when any of my paper doesn't get published, I write on sustainable consumption, and whenever any of uh, my papers does not get published, I go back to this. One of my papers, which I made last April, wasn't getting published. So I read SLR papers on green marketing. One of the papers I came across was this. So it was written that Journal of Consumer Marketing, it's an A category journal, has had the maximum green marketing papers. And I submitted my paper there and I got a minor revision. So I was very lucky. So these particular, SLR studies are so useful for people like us who have to publish papers. He's given a categorization of which is the journal which has the maximum papers out of, and this is not a small game. He's taken papers from the past 25 years and made this analysis. Number two, he has also given a trend analysis over the years as to which are the papers, what was the trend of publication of green marketing papers. So in 2011, there was a sudden upsurge in green marketing. But you don't stop there. So if there were out of 114, suppose there was some 15 papers, see the number of articles on the left side in the y-axis. It says there were some 15 articles which were published in 2011, 2012. You are supposed to be reading these 15 articles separately twice, each of the authors, to find out that what was so great in 2012 that there was a sudden upsurge of green marketing papers in that year. It is those 15 papers which were published in this year and the analysis of that which will tell you it. Another type of analysis which he's made is he has segregated the papers on the basis of marketing strategies. So his paper right from the beginning, from research objective, was on marketing strategies. So green marketing mix, product, price, place, promotion, segmentation, positioning. How many papers in each of these categories he has segregated from those 114 papers. Later on, of course, this is not just to be done in a tabular form. And of course, there was one RO which said definition. So see, in 1976, it was defined as ecological marketing. In 1995, it became green marketing. In 2009, see the date, 2009. This is all analysis through papers. It became sustainable marketing, and today it is known as eco/marketing. 2013, and this is actually true because again in the paper that I'm telling you, one of the review that came to me from Journal of Consumer Marketing, where my paper is in minor revision, the reviewer has actually said, why are you using the word green marketing? Use the word eco marketing. It's actually comes. So these SLR papers, they're really helpful to people like us because they're consolidating the research of past 20 years. No doubt SLR is becoming very famous. All this has been written in paragraphs. So you remember he said that there were some few papers on, he had a bar chart where he showed positioning, green marketing mix, segmentation. Now he's written on each and every topic. So he's collectively writing on out of 114, if suppose 10 papers were on green marketing mix, he's written about those 10 papers in paragraphs. If suppose 14 papers were on positioning, he's written about those 14 papers in positioning. And you just don't write about those 14 papers. You also write, finally when you do discussion, so after describing this, when you go to discussion chapter, you finally say what is the gap. You're not just here to list what happened in 25 years. You have to tell us where are the gaps. Further, if you see this analysis, just a minute, see this bar chart analysis. I use this paper for my PhD scholars who come and say I want to work on sustainability and green marketing, but everything has been studied. Everything on earth has been studied, and uh, there is nothing else. So I show them this paper and say that look at the P place. Out of 114 papers, there are only 8 papers which are written on place. So in the past 25 years, There are only 8 papers which have been written on the topic of place or distribution when it comes to marketing strategy. Pick up this area. People are not writing about it, haven't written about it in the past 25 years. You start writing. At the same time, green marketing mix is an area which, according to this SLR, 64 papers have been written already on this topic out of 114. Leave it. It's saturated. It's exhausted. Leave it. Don't write on it anymore. So this sort of implications, this what I'm saying right now is implications of the research. This also has to be given after analysis and after discussions chapter. Right, so I'll stop here. I'll stop sharing and we can open the house to questions now. We can line up the questions one by one. Is there a method of raising your hand or should I go to a chat or something? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so can the lineup be made for
Yes,
Sakshi
participants, do
ma'am?
you have
Yeah,
yes, ma'am. Yes,
yeah.
participants, do you
Hello.
have any query? Then you can ask.
Yes, yes.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Thank you, ma'am. It was a very nice, like, kind of introduction and like starting with this meta-analysis. There is one query, like, when I am searching in the Scopus database
Mm-hmm.
for this particular topic, so I'm
Mm-hmm.
getting like very few papers, not even 100.
Tell
So
me the topic. Wait,
it's
I'll just
like,
share my screen. Just give me 1 minute. I can't do it on Scopus right now because I don't have an access of it at home. I can do it on Google Scholar. Can you see Google Scholar?
yes, ma'am. Ma'am, can we
What's the
extract?
topic?
The topic is emotional brand attachment on social media.
Emotional brand attachment and social media. First thing is
Yeah,
don't
and
write on or impact because then it becomes very, very. So I'm just,
yeah,
if
I'm
you
writing
want
it in the
only
same
social.
way, in the in inverted
Yeah,
commas with the and. Yeah.
agreed. Agree. So yes, there are some 1160 papers on Google Scholar itself.
Okay, ma'am. So, like, why in the databases like Scopus and EBSCO, like I also searched on Web
Yeah,
of Science,
yeah,
there were only 4 papers in Web of Science, and in
yeah.
the Scopus, not like it's around 10, 12. I don't remember the figure.
Yes, yes,
How
yes,
can I
yes,
increase the number? I mean, do I need to
yes,
use the alternative terms? I used it with brand attachment also, so
yes,
it increased a bit. But like my topic is
yes.
on emotional brand attachment, so please guide me, ma'am.
Yeah. So, first thing, sir, is that this topic seems to be very, very niche to do an SLR. Okay. So, you are correct. If I remove this to brand attachment, okay, I will get more papers. I'm just showing you. So, we had 1160. Now we have 5340. It's become 3 times. Okay. If I remove the quotes from social media, I'm just trying to tell you, I get 7420. Okay, because social media could be known as some other synonym also, for example social media or social technology media, something like this. Now if I remove the quotes from brand attachment, I have 7400. If I remove the quotes from this, it becomes 2,07,000. So this is one way of getting more papers. Okay. Another thing that I want to, and of course, I see there are quite a few papers, so nothing to worry in this topic. I don't think it's that big of. See, sometimes it's called brand attachment, sometimes it's called brand love. So don't be very stringent that I'll only and only work on brand attachment. Brand attachment, brand love, brand affinity, these terms are similar. Please be flexible and don't go on me that be flexible. Rather, when you write a paper, please do prove through past literature that brand love, brand attachment, brand affinity are similar terms. First thing is try and prove to the reviewer that these are similar terms. So I picked up papers from this also. When you open the quotes the way I have done, brand attachment, brand affinity, brand love, all papers will start coming up. Number one. Number two, although here I see that the topic is very generic, you can do an SLR. There are topics where you can't do SLR. So there's a topic on new topics, never try SLR. So there's a topic called neuromarketing. Okay. Neuromarketing, just look, I've just typed one word neuromarketing. Just neuromarketing, no impact, nothing. One word. In totality, there are only 25,700 papers. In your case, I wrote two variables, one variable and then another variable, and I got some 2,07,000 papers. Okay. Neuromarketing is a very, very new field. Neuromarketing alone as a word, and half of these paper are going to be like not even on neuromarketing, there'll be more of those medical terms of neuromarketing. Only 25,700 results when I say neuromarketing only. If I say neuromarketing and purchase intention, that is what I want to study. That is what I want to study. The papers have reduced to 4,240. On Google, 4,240 is very, very small, which means, what does it mean? It means I should not be doing an SLR on this. This is too new a topic in SLR. I am consolidating the research of the past at least 10 years. So there has to be papers. So do not take up subjects like neuromarketing. There's another topic where again I don't know if
Ma'am,
yes,
like
yeah.
I'm working on a model, and in that model there are like 4 or 5 variables, 4 or 5 constructs, and it starts with the emotional brand attachment. So should I use these different these constructs to search for the like to search in the yeah in the
Then
topic area?
how are you working on a model in an SLR? We
No, no, not in
first
an
do,
SLR.
huh,
I'm working on a model, like in my proposal I'm working in a model, and I want to do like a kind of literature review. So I'm looking for this systematic literature review. So how should I
what's your
proceed?
topic? What's your topic?
My
What's the
topic
main topic?
topic is on emotional brand attachment
Yeah, so
in the context of social media.
emotional brand attachment. So ideally you should be doing an SLR on emotional brand attachment. So there are two like 14,000 papers.
And like in the
Yeah.
context of social media, I should not use that word in this.
No, because it's becoming very narrow. You'll not get data.
Okay.
You'll not get data. Right. So you should not be using that word because it's limiting your research. Okay. So you have to go a little generic,
All right. All right.
right?
So whatever like kind of relationships I get from this, I should be
Yes.
using to replicate those
Yes.
relationships
Yes.
in the social media context. Am I correct?
Yes. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
All
You
right.
are
Thank you
correct.
so much.
In fact, first you should be doing an SLR and then making up your model. Ideally, that is what should
Yes.
be
Yes.
done in a
Yeah.
PhD.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yes. Any other questions?
Ma'am,
Hello.
I okay. So you can go ahead.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Ma'am, this is Dr. Abhik Mukherjee from the University of Burdwan, West Bengal. Uh,
Yes.
Ma'am, I have a query. Just it is related to what you said that I am presently doing a project on challenges to scalability, which is with regard to women entrepreneurships. But whenever I type the word scalability, so I get papers related to computer science, say for example.
What
So
is your
it
topic, sir?
challenges of scalability, business scalability, that is organizational scalability.
No, you have to give me further terms of business scalability.
Yeah.
You have to give me a term which the software understands. So, are these titles any use to you?
Uh, Not basically model scalability, but this is basically related to growth. So as a result, my question is, can we replace scalability with growth and
Yes,
factors
you can.
affecting growth or things like
Yes, you
that?
can. Yes, you can.
Okay. So synonyms can
In
be used.
fact, yes. In fact, when you say growth, growth is
Huh.
a very, very generic term. I
Very
mean, growth
common
in
term.
what?
Yeah.
It's a very common term. You can't do an
Yeah.
SLR on that. You'll have to, your variable
Small
is not
business
defined
growth.
yet.
Say, for example, small business growth. I have found quite a few literatures on that.
Sir, even when I say growth, it's very, very generic. Growth in what? Are you looking in growth in profit, revenue, number of customers? You have to define, there are so many parameters of growth. You
Mm-hmm.
have to define one parameter. When you say
Okay.
a company is growing, growing in what? Is it profit? Is
Hmm.
it product portfolio? Is it the number of size of
Scale, scale,
customers?
scale
Scale, sir, scale in
can
what?
be
In
measured in different ways.
dollars?
Okay. Hmm.
Exactly. So you have to tell me what scale, dollars,
Hmm.
number of customers,
Mm-hmm.
number of shareholders. What is your scale? You have
Okay,
to
the
define that.
variables through which growth is measured. That
Yes,
has to
yes,
be
the variable
specified.
has to be defined. Yes, yes.
Okay.
Variable has
Yeah.
to be defined. Yes,
Thank you. Yeah.
yes. Thank you. The next question, please.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I'm Megha Kalia. Uh,
Yeah.
Ma'am, actually, I just wanted to. Actually, I'm quite new to systematic literature review. My topic is adoption of blended learning in management institutions. So I had attended one more of your FDPs before this.
Mhm.
So, ma'am, actually, I just searched this on Google Scholar. So I got around 1,32,000 results.
Mhm.
32,000 results. So, ma'am, how do we go about after this? Like the elimination, how would I have one database like 1,32,000? Uh,
Mhm.
what would be the next step of eliminating
Title.
the
Titles.
ma'am that like this is my exact title, study of adoption of blended learning in management
No, no,
institutions.
no, 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 no,
So
no, no.
whichever is not
No, no,
in
no.
sync.
Hold it, hold it,
Yes,
hold it.
ma'am. Yes,
What
yes,
is your
ma'am.
title? Don't tell me the full title. Just tell me the variables.
Okay, ma'am. Blended learning,
Yeah. And
ma'am. Management institutions.
no, management institutions is not a variable. Management institutions is not a variable. Your variable is only blending learning. That's it.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
if
Yes,
I,
basically
huh,
adoption of it and that.
no, no, adoption of it again, I want another variable. I need one variable to impact the other variable. So if you're saying blended learning, suppose you're saying blended learning, okay, in institutions, let me take this. If this is what your paper is, so you have some 2,36,000 papers on this. Do an
Yes.
SLR of it. It's not necessary you have to give me a relationship of this impacts that. Doesn't matter. That I needed
Okay.
meta-analysis.
Okay.
You
Okay.
can do a general SLR. So blending learning institutions in institutions, you said, don't do it in
Yes.
full sentence. The software will not be able to. So 2,36,000 papers are already there on this. Start a title reduction through title.
Okay. Ma'am, how will I analyze this much amount of data, like these many papers?
No, it has
So,
to be done. It has to be done. It has to be done with title first. It has to be done. There are no other options. Or else, what you can do is that, like the author that I showed you, that he said, I only took published articles. Now, one question is, why do we see so many papers in Google Scholar vis-a-vis Scopus, etc.?
ma'am, yes, ma'am,
Because
yes.
Scopus only and only gives us good category journals.
Right.
Scopus only gives you Scopus category journals. What happens to
Right.
conference proceedings? What happens to non-Scopus journals? They are
Mm-hmm.
listed in Google.
Google.
They are
Right.
listed. That is the reason you're getting. And in an
Mm.
SLR, I do not have to take only published papers, so I can use Google Scholar also.
Okay.
It's not necessary to take only Scopus indexed papers. So I can use Google Scholar also.
Okay.
But
So then,
you will have to reduce through title.
okay, and one by one, I keep, I mean,
Yes.
scrolling through this and yes, then
Yes.
screening every title.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes, yes. And it's a
Okay.
long process. Analysis
Okay.
is not that long. Here, the collection of data is a very long process in these papers.
Okay, ma'am. Fine,
Yeah.
ma'am. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Ma'am, is there a way
Yes.
we can download or extract in this data in Excel file from Google Scholar?
No. No. There are no shortcuts. You'll have to go through title.
All
There
right.
are no shortcuts.
So, can you tell us like how what like when we do this SLR, if I'm doing it in Excel, so which
Mm-hmm.
column should I like? It's very important to keep
Okay. So what I'll
as
do
per your
is
experience.
I'll show you that in meta-analysis. I actually have my papers. I'm going to show you the whole Excel sheet tomorrow when I start.
Ma'am, please
First
share
time.
some good papers on meta-analysis in the WhatsApp group also, so that we can read
WhatsApp
them
group I
before.
don't have. I'll do that. I'll do that. So SLR papers, I have 2 or 3 good ones. This is my whole sheet that I have. I
You
have a
can like
few good
make the
ones. I
grand
will
mark
share.
also.
This green marketing one is this SLR only that I showed you. This one is an SLR that I showed you. I'll first share this paper. Try and understand this today.
To that, so that we can read.
WhatsApp group I don't have an access to, but I will give it to the organizers today itself. Don't worry.
All right. Thank
I'll
you.
send you 2, 3 papers today itself. And my own paper, how I formed it, that I'm going to start with you tomorrow when I do meta-analysis. So when I start, I'll first go to SLR and then, so tomorrow what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do my paper with you. I mean, starting from how I made an Excel sheet, what are the columns, everything is going to be a process. Right? If you still want to see, I can, so I can just show you one sample. Huh? This is of my paper. So this is the Excel sheet that I made. Can you see it? Is it visible? Title of the paper, author, journal
Yes, ma'am.
name, year of publication, context of study. This I made for one. There's another paper which I have, which is still in a process. It's taken me months together, and I really don't know when I'll be able to finish it. Again, in that also there is a similar sheet, so I will be giving these sheets to you also. Okay. Right. So if there are no other questions, we can end the session and meet tomorrow.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
am I audible?
Yes. Yes.
Good evening, ma'am. I'm Anjali Mandal, and
Yeah.
I'm doing PhD. So my basic general question is that whenever we do systematic literature review, we need data. And
Yes.
in my college, I do not have access of Web of Science or Scoopus or any other good
And please
database.
collaborate. Collaborate with people. That's the
Yes,
only
ma'am.
thing I
In
can
that
say.
case, yes, ma'am. I'm coming to my point. So in that case, I found a person. He said, "Okay, fine. I will give you all the data, but you have to give me a research syntax." Right. For that research syntax, what I will write, what I will give to that person, so that he will
Research
give me the
syntax as in? What do you want? Research syntax as in?
means what keywords I should use, or I will give the question to that person so that he
Yes.
will put in the Web of Science and he will give me
Yes.
the things.
Yes. Yes.
So
Ma'am,
what
that is something
these
which
things?
only you can decide. I cannot comment on this. That is something which only you can decide. What keywords are best for you? You should talk to your guide and say which keyword should I give to this person. That is
Uh,
absolutely up to you.
Okay. Then, ma'am,
Yeah.
one more question comes to my mind that if my keywords are more than 7 or 8, is it okay?
It's not actually. It should not be more than 4 to 5 because then
O-
you'll get lesser data. The more specific they become, the lesser the data.
Okay, okay. Then, ma'am, it would be fine that if I will give the keywords only and I will give the things, or I
Yes,
have to give
yes.
the questions also. I have to give
No, no, no,
the
no, 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 no. No, no,
only
no, no.
keywords.
Only keywords. Only keywords.
Okay, okay, ma'am. Okay, thank
Yeah.
you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. Right. So, can we all now probably meet tomorrow?
Yes,
Tomorrow we are meeting 2:30 to 4, if I'm not wrong, correct?
yes, ma'am.
Yes. So I see you all tomorrow somewhere around 2:30, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Thank you so much,
Sakshi
ma'am.
ma'am, is it okay?
Eh, yes, मैम दिस इज ओके मैम अगर
Yeah.
कल के लिए इज इट अगर आप 1 o'clock if you are not
मैम rather
if you're
if the
free that time अगर
participants
1 o'clock हम
just एक काम करिए साक्षी मैम सुबह ना पार्टिसिपेंट से पूछिए क्योंकि
हाँ
सैटरडे संडे है
हाँ
अगर
जी
ये if they are ready for okay an early morning session I'm okay with that also.
अर्ली मॉर्निंग ओके मैम
हाँ हाँ 9 to 11 if they are ready do let me know.
ओके मैम आई टेक
But
द
otherwise
कंसेंट राइट
just keep
नाउ
it हाँ just keep it 2:30 ठीक है and do let me know. ठीक है
ठीक
आई
है
एम ओके विद 9 to 11 also because we can finish fast वो
9 to
थोड़ा
11
दिवाली का वो सब है तो maybe some people want to go out or something.
that's why I'm saying
I'm okay
that's why
I'm okay with 8 to 10 also if everybody is ready. अगर आप थोड़ा जल्दी करना चाहते हो 8 to 10 टाइप की सब फ्री हो जाएं आई एम ओके विद दैट ऑल्सो, दैट आई लीव टू यू, क्योंकि आप लोग व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप में करके बता दो। अगर कल और परसों दोनों दिन आप 8 to 10 करना चाहते हो, थोड़ा फ्री होना चाहते हो कि यू हैव टू गो अराउंड फॉर दिवाली, आई एम ओके विद दैट ऑल्सो। मेरे को अर्ली मॉर्निंग में कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं।
ओके मैम, 8 to 10 या फिर 9 to 11,
हाँ हाँ हाँ, 8 to 10 कर लो,
11
9
तक
to
अगर
11
वाइंड अप
कर
कर
लो,
ले तो
चलेगा चलेगा। हाँ हाँ,
नाइन टू
क्योंकि मेरे
इलेवन
को अर्ली मॉर्निंग से कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं। मुझे ऐसा लग रहा है कि दिवाली वाला वीक है ना, ये दिवाली से एक वीक पहले, सो मे
जी
बी
जी जी,
सैटरडे संडे छुट्टी वाला
हाँ
दिन
जी,
है, तो इफ यू वांट
छुट्टी
टू
का
टेक एन 8 to 10, आई एम ओके विद दैट। यू टेक से फॉर 8 to 10 पहले, ठीक है?
ओके
फिर आप
मैम,
मुझे
ठीक
बता
है।
दीजिए। नहीं है तो फिर 2:30 to 4 तो है ही।
हाँ जी, ठीक है।
8 to सॉरी 8 to 9:30, 8 to 9:30।
8 to 9:30 ना?
हाँ, तो
मैम,
उसमें ना सब फ्री हो जाए। हाँ
मैं अभी अनाउंस कर देती हूँ ताकि
हाँ
सभी
जी,
जो
आप
है
पूछ
व्हाट्सएप
के
पे
ना
दे
पहले
दे
मुझे,
सेंड अस द कंसेंट।
हाँ मुझे बता दीजिए।
हाँ
ठीक है, रात को बता
हाँ जी,
दीजिए, मैं
मैं
जैसे
आपको,
कहेंगे वैसे हो जाएगा।
जी मैम, जी,
ठीक है
विल
मैम,
ड्रॉप यू
ओके
मैसेज।
ओके ओके, थैंक
थैंक यू सो मच
Thank
मैम।
you, ma'am.
थैंक यू, सी
Thank you, ma'am.
Uh,
बाय।
Thank you.
yes, participants, if you are interested, what timing you can take the session for tomorrow, please send us the consent on the WhatsApp group that we have created. So please all
I think
send
9
your
to
consent
10:30
because
would
ये
be a
Diwali
better
week,
one,
so
probably.
Okay,
I mean,
participants will take the
9.
consent of all the participants, and accordingly we'll finalize the time. We can decide it on our WhatsApp group, and the majority will decide it on the basis of majority. If all would be comfortable during that time, we'll schedule it. Otherwise, it would remain at the scheduled time.
And we will provide the recordings also.
Okay, participants, we all may disperse for the day now. The link for the session will be shared with you all in the WhatsApp group as well as through Gmail. You all may leave now. Thank you.